Hey everybody, and welcome to the Weed Out, where we weed out the bullshit and talk about things happening where we live in Holyoke, Massachusetts, but applicable to all over the world and, especially in colonialist America. Uh, this week we're going to be talking about, a lot of the things we've been talking about, but with real audio from our most recent local town hall. We were talking about police tech, aka pig tech, hashtag pig tech, that called ShotSpotter, which is a series of microphones, and it's inherently a problematic technology. It's to track the trajectory of gunshots because the police claim nobody's helping them. Nobody's calling in gunshots. They want to figure out who's shooting these guns, which, in theory sounds great, but the technology doesn't work. They've used it in other communities around the world. We have tons of stats that we've talked about with our council, with our neighbors on the show. It's just not an effective technology. So in this meeting, the mayor did a tricky move and basically held the council hostage, which was split and wavering on adopting this technology. And they basically he gave them a rock and a hard place. Use the federal grants for the first 2 years, but then the city starts incurring the subscription and the maintenance of the equipment, but we get 2 years of it, installation, etc., through a federal grant with the American Rescue Plan. More cop toys from the federal government. And weirdly, this is where I agree with somebody like Matt Gaetz, Republican from Florida, who thinks this is going to get local departments hooked on federal funds like drugs, and then they can override their constituents' will in their own town. We're actually seeing this happen right here. Mm-hmm. So the mayor basically gave the council a false choice. I'm getting this tech. There's been people that have been killed by gun violence. There have been 5 deaths so far in 2022, and they're all nameless, faceless, working class or poor people. So these people's deaths are politicized. Nobody knows their names, really. Nobody knows their stories. To get this technology doesn't really work very effectively and is inherently racist because of where you put the microphones. Not that microphones are racist, it's where you're putting them. So it's a gender-defying technique tool. It's awful. But we saw in this meeting lots of great points from advocates against ShotSpotter, all different types of people talking about public safety with varying opinions and points of view, but all want a safer Holyoke and all pretty much saying no to ShotSpotter. But the council was kind of forced to go through with the vote either way, so the police kind of get their way. The mayor, Josh Garcia, has kissed the ring. There is controversy around this whole thing with one of the counselors at some point got very frustrated in the last couple months and called the Holyoke police, a gang. They act like a gang. They come out in force. And that didn't go over well, as you can imagine. Here at the Weed Out, we do think they act like a gang. Mm-hmm. Talk like a gang, act like a gang. I don't know what to tell you.
Quack.
Quack, quack, duck, duck. I don't know. Anyways, so this whole story, it's minutia. It's not direct harm, but it's a harmful technology. It's a harmful mindset. It doesn't actually end the cycle of gun violence. They all agreed that crime and violence stem from poverty, but then they say we're going to use science and technology to come after the fact that people are dead, and that's fair. We're just so focused on punitive measures, and we don't think about we refuse to engage with methods that would head off these problems, and it will take generations in time, but we have to start. And anyways, I've done a lot of talking. Joanna's with me, but we just wanted to give you a quick background on what this episode is about. So basically, we have clips from this council meeting where there was a little bit of everything.
Oh yeah,
so
it was a real
Joanna,
show.
You want to go in and just kind of give them all a jokey little snarky rundown on how this meeting had pretty much everything you could imagine in it, and it was not even through the public comment. It was basically the first half hour. It was like everything that we're talking about is wrong.
Well, yeah. What's up, Western Mass? How are you doing, everybody? Yeah, so you're right, Spencer. This was one of those meetings where you're like, you're excited you made it, even if you're just there, because wow. And like you just ended on how they really were focusing on science and technology, and like we did an episode on data, and so the whole time I'm just cringing because these men, some white ladies, and the mayor, are trying to argue that they're using data to support this decision. But in reality, like the actual data shows that 80% of the time ShotSpotter does not work. And there are multiple cities. Chicago is one that has, I'll post all this stuff on our website at www.theweedout.com. So check it out there. But there are multiple studies. Chicago is one, but locally, and an activist who we connect with, Meg Bassan, she actually came and spoke via Zoom about Pittsfield's situation with ShotSpotter 2. And we'll play her quote because it's just she's talking about data and science. So to all the counselors who think that and there are some that are actually doing research and really listening to the data and science, and thank you to those counselors. But to the counselors that think you are listening to actual data or science, like I teach at UMass. And I majored in clinical psychology and focused on research and design. So like I please call on you to really look at what data are you looking at? Is it only from ShotSpotter? Could I please send you a packet of information that you would look over? And I guess the same call goes out to the mayor of Holyoke. And with that, I kind of will turn it over to Spence because we can talk a little bit more about the comments during this meeting, which were like kind of there are some people that really we just need to let their comments speak for themselves. We had wonderful public comment from people in the community. Neighbor to Neighbor was there, and they had stood outside of City Hall before the meeting and were protesting in a way to call for a number of demands that since ShotSpotter will go forward, they want some, transparency, some monitoring so that in 2 years, perhaps they can get rid of that contract and it won't be re-signed. That was really cool. And some people showed up in the chamber for them with that group to speak. And those people, there are beautiful comments from everyone. Some of the counselors, specifically Counselor Jose Maldonado Velez and
Maldonado Velez.
Thank you. And Counselor Israel Rivera and Juan Anderson Burgos. They just had wonderful comments and things to say. And there were others as well. But it's just really worth listening to because some of the other counselors seem to just not be interested in listening to the public, or if they do, it really has to be on their specific terms, which
civility
wow,
politics,
it's really civility politics. And so, we have other episodes on that. So it just really checked all the boxes.
The keywords decorum, civility,
everything like that,
while being very uncivil as far as human values go and using dog whistles. It was
really a good,
it's all the things I rant about and it happened to the public, in public, on microphones, and it's in the record in the hall forever and ever. And yeah, nothing like cancelable. Nobody's going to get, nobody dropped an actual slur. So like, let's,
yeah.
This was, but for a city council meeting, and we've been to a lot, this was more animated. This is as animated as it gets.
Oh, yeah.
Without it being
Northampton, Massachusetts, basically. That's
or without it being a riot.
Or
like,
people really, yeah.
There was people going ooh in the background.
That's true. There were clapping,
and there was
stuff.
some clapping, and there was good clapping, and then when there was some basically the city council and local governments, they don't want to participate in democracy. They don't even want to let the First Amendment exist, and for them they have all these rules and processes on what's acceptable, whether it's showing up in person or having a certain vernacular, not using colorful language as long as it's not a threat. Like, you know, you should be able to say the word fuck or bullshit, especially if you're quoting somebody, like, because sometimes you need to say what was said to give everybody an idea what's going on. Like, you know, there were counselors reporting that they had racial threats sent to them. You know, the non-white counselors have been getting harassed because of Jose Maldonado Velez's comments about the police being a gang. And then his fellow councilmen that aren't him. They're their own people with their own thoughts and their own values. And they're not as fiery when it comes to the police. You know, who knows? Is it political? What's their motivation? Doesn't matter. They've never put themselves on the record like that, and they receive vitriol for what he did, and that's not okay either. But also what he did was he called a spade, and he had good reason for it. You know, the Holyoke police, their response to Councilor Maldonado Velez was gang-like.
Mm-hmm.
The Captain Moriarty, Chief of Communications, you know, the mouthpiece only speaks for the union and for the department itself, is saying things like the counselor's comments are divisive and naive, and that he should basically recuse himself from any decisions regarding the police because he clearly can't be unbiased, and he's a cop hater, essentially. He didn't say that. I added that last part. But what he's getting at is, stop talking. Don't share your views on a government entity, or else. You know, that's what a gang does.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Don't, you know, stand in line. Don't fucking, you're not allowed to actually, he is allowed to criticize. And the thing is, if they retaliate against him, there are cases on the books of officers retaliating to public officials' comments about them. And the reality is, judges don't, I mean, of all things, judges don't look kindly on retaliation cases with police and public, you know, legislators or counselors. They don't like it because the cops are, quote, held to a higher standard when it comes to criticism. You know, people are allowed to voice their frustration with the police, and this is the rare time our judicial system has our back. You know, but, you know, if you think about it logically, it's the court system versus the executive. So, of course, they're going to be like, if we got issues, we want to be able to say something too. You know, so it's really self-preservation. Don't Yahoo for our court system just yet. But the point is, he's opening up the city to lawsuit, you know, or it's just... It just shows they either don't know the law, they don't understand what they're doing, they're ignorant, they're dumb, and they're just bullies, or they know what they're doing and they know nobody's going to stop them, which is very gang-like.
Yeah.
So it's like, no matter what way you slice it, it's not good. And, you know, the fact that the council, you know, I'll just say it, the white side of the council, they can't get it together, and they refuse to even acknowledge the police do what they do in this town. Or don't do. They just kind of like, they literally pretend it doesn't exist. None of it. None of the controversy, the money missing, the extortion cases, the guns missing, the multiple complaints of police brutality.
Yeah.
The list goes on. The whistleblower, you know, that an acting mayor fired. Like, this is all in the last 2 years. So it's like, this isn't new, and it was bad in the 80s and 90s, and it's just bad in a different way now. They found new ways to be terrible.
They're also just incredibly uneducated about, like, any of the isms, basically, like anti-racism, misogyny. Most of the older white white council members.
Well, and the police too, but
the police. I'm not even going there. But the older white council members are incredibly uneducated about things like civility politics or things like that. And I know most towns it depends, like every town in Western Mass. I've been to a lot of town meetings, so I've been to town meetings in Pittsfield, North Adams, Montague, Holyoke, Northampton, East Hampton, some virtual, some in person, and every town does have a different approach. I will say that this meeting was one of the worst things I had to watch in terms of just seeing how nervous and uptight they were about even letting the public speak. And then just like
they were trying to chill the conversation before the conversation even had. They were really not into even having public comment. They were trying to table public comment. And there's laws in Massachusetts that are really strict on public comment against the civilian. It's not really a very favorable state, and I assume a lot of states are like that. But we have this breadcrumb. You know, we have public comment, and you have your vote. But if you don't live in a town, but you work there, you shop there, you go through there, you have family, you have friends there, you have somebody that was hurt by that town, they basically insinuate, if you're not from here, fuck off. And the reality is you don't get to vote, but you should be able to at least come and speak your mind if you're going to be governed by those rules and pay the local sales tax and potentially be have to interact with their police officers or their DPW for whatever reason, you know, like, yeah, they should have a right to come here. This is literally their only redress, is to have it on the record so the rest of the community who may not be able to make it to the meeting will know what's going on. This is what happened.
Well, right, and I think this is why we chose this meeting to be basically the topic for this episode, really, because on October 4th, when the Holyoke City Council met, it was really wild, you guys. Like, I mean, it's over a technology that so many cities just do not want, ShotSpotter, like Spencer was talking about. And I think, again, like that the reason we're sharing the clips are because both the people that came to speak so eloquently about the different things that were happening in their community and not wanting ShotSpotter in place did such an amazing job. And friends from other towns that just really care, like myself, came. Even if it was over Zoom. So you'll see ableism in these quotes too, because some of the counselors don't like that we are remote or that we're emailing. And I call to you all after being in a pandemic. Again, it's an uneducated point of view. What you need to really do is read up on these topics, really reflect and like think about how you would feel as a person who couldn't attend this meeting if something were to happen to you, and how you would like your community to be heard. I think all of us should be, at least if we're working in a public position. I work for the state right now even, and I would want people to feel that they are heard. You can't just shut people out.
And we should want our public servants to be more Leslie Knope than Ron Swanson.
Yes, we should.
And Ron Swanson's hilarious, but like he's an asshole, and you know, you work for the people, and I'm not saying you have to take their abuse.
No.
But like when people are here to talk,
you just listen.
Just listen. Don't take it personally. You didn't invent the police system. You didn't invent you have say over the rules, laws, and how the direction of the government's going to go. Like you, that's your job as a counselor. But like, don't take it so fucking personally. Well, nobody's accusing you of inventing white supremacy, but we will accuse you of upholding it,
of checking all the boxes. Yeah, like really. And that part about like Zoom and email too, like I call on everyone. Like I work fully remotely now because we can do that.
It's actually
in my
more efficient.
Role. It's more efficient for my role specifically even. So like not
all jobs. My job can't be done
remotely.
remotely.
Some jobs cannot be done remotely.
I have to literally lift shit up and put things down. You know, some of our jobs will never be remote, but some of us work till 7 o'clock. So wouldn't it be nice to be able to zoom in on your car ride home to your council meeting? Isn't that a good thing that we should be encouraging people to do, or even outside people? And we talk about how the mainstream media lets us down.
But that can bring us full circle back to this council meeting where people should, all councils.
Yeah, and like, want to hear. And Councilor Jourdain and McGivern lamenting about how taking up airtime.
Yeah,
lamenting about how much time public comment takes into their meeting. Time. But then at the same time, don't want emails. And it's like, well, emails can literally, you don't even have to read them if they're like, hey, let's have 150 character count, 200, like a tweet. No on ShotSpotter. Boom. And then if you want longer, that's an addendum that it can be put into the minutes, and whoever wants to go through the fucking minutes can go through the minutes. So no sweat off the back. It's in the public record. It's fair. And the thing is, yeah, you know, our constituents voted for us. And yeah, it's an imperfect democracy here. I mean, we do a democratic republic, so we democratically elect our reps, right? But that doesn't make them kingdom. That doesn't make them feudal lords. They still have to deal with us. Just at least coming to bitch at them. Yeah. Like. They don't even have to listen. Ultimately, they can still make their decisions, but you just have to listen. That is the penance. That is the cost of doing business. End of story. Even if you think, as long as, again, I'm not like in your face spitting at you and accosting you, yeah, that's unacceptable. That's not free speech. That's a waste of everybody's time and effort. And yeah, that's a whole different thing. But if you're in there and you think because a 9-year-old gets their head bashed in by the Holyoke police, and that they give them a meager pittance to do an NDA. Now we can't even find out who that family is, but we all know who that family is. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, but none of us can talk about it. Here we are. It's like, where else can we go and do something about it, you know? And you should be able to go and say your piece so that it gets around. Like, people didn't know about the Instagram photo of the child. Now Holyoke Police doesn't have an Instagram anymore because it's too much of a headache. Mm-hmm. It's just too much of a headache.
Well, we really kind of helped make it that way.
We made it a headache, but like, and
they were posting.
They kept doing stupid things. They kept doing stupid things that it just wasn't effective, not helpful for anybody.
It was upsetting actually for the community.
And it's Captain Moriarty.
It was very upsetting.
My favorite police officer in Holyoke. You know, he'd probably get pissed that I called him an officer, not captain. But anyways, you know, Councilor Jourdain. I mean, we have to call him out by name, and we can do that because we don't have the council rules here. We can say whatever we want here. And the reality is, him saying he said some racist things to Israel Rivera, referring to his jail time because he didn't like that Israel was challenging the decorum thing and calling out civility politics for what it is, of the white man's tool, and you know, the white devil's tool, as I call it. You know, civility. Oh, you didn't use the right proper words, but you know, they'll say hell, they'll say user, they'll say abuser, they'll say drug addict. And it's like, okay, those words are really shitty.
And his tone was also horrible.
And his tone was terrible. And then he's interrupting people. He's trying to be the parliamentarian. He's not the parliamentarian.
Well, he's real patronizing, ableism.
Well, yeah,
all
he's
the
the one
isms,
who wants.
he does.
But then he refers to he checks his correspondence. He says this, checks his correspondence, and he also referred to the silent majority later. So it's like, it's cool for them to email, but you don't have to put that in the record so we can see it for proof. But then you're shunning people that are willing to put their name on it. Mm-hmm. This makes no fucking sense.
Well,
context of this, they have an internal complaint from their planning board about this very issue, about the exact same thing, and they don't name specifically. Our gut is that it's Linda Vakin they're referring to, but you know, it could be Jourdain.
Yeah, the letter, actually, we'll share the post and the letter on the website, because you can actually go to the recording and see who it was. So we don't even, again, so
these people speak for themselves. So the planning board is putting in an official, on the record,
a complaint,
government complaint about our council doing the very thing that we're talking about in this episode from a different meeting that was their thing.
I think that was in August, but
it was during the summer. But their behavior, they called out their chilling of the First First Amendment behavior, and they didn't say racist,
no, but just
but
the way,
it was like there
really
was some
insinuated.
venomous. I think they said venomous. Which is, pretty extreme for, it's a small government. These people all have to see each other every day. So to put something like that in writing, and they were hedging. Mm-hmm. They're hedging in it, but not really.
I mean, they were even saying, like, we feel bad that we have to put this in writing.
Right.
Yeah. They're like, we regret that we'd even have to do this because we work together with you. So.
And they felt like they needed to do it for the community.
And for the man. So a gentleman that was on the planning board, for everyone to have a little more context, he recused himself and then spoke and was treated really terribly. So again, you can go and read this letter on our website and check out the clip. But they already have within their own group, within their own governmental groups, some of the city councilors still call for decorum from some, but then are acting in a way that would cause the planning board, a group they work with, to write a letter telling them that they literally lack decorum in every way and to please consider how they speak to each other. So that's already happened. So then this meeting happens and we were like, wowzers. Because again, it's so many good comments, but then also like, wow, to the city councilors. And again, it is a lack of education and refusal on their part as white people in general to like educate themselves enough to not sound completely horrible and not just stupid.
Literal, like,
not just stupid.
Cardboard cutout of a white supremacist.
Yes, it's really upsetting.
And they wouldn't identify as white supremacists at all. They would say they're, moderate conservatives or moderate Democrats.
But they're upholding the status quo and doing things that are so just at a word they would understand is rude and lacking of decorum. As a woman who can talk that way to them if they would like.
And I think decorum's bullshit.
Yeah, me too. But if they need me to talk to them that way for them to understand, I can do it. You guys sound ridiculous. And I mean, I'm excited to share this with others because, again, there were good sides and bad sides. But these people really, I feel like if you live in Western Mass, you live in a community, thank you to the people who came from outside Holyoke and spoke at this meeting. And I think as anyone who's involved in politics who really cares about certain issues, like reach out to people. We kind of made a call to action and made a few Substack posts and did some emailing to local groups that we sometimes work with. And, it works. Work with people in other towns who have information that you don't have, public records that you may not have thought to have access to. Just the networking and community alone was really nice. But again, on October 4th, 2022, the city council met, and it was just really a very interesting meeting where I think we really need to stay on top of them in terms of the way that they allow themselves to conduct business and their decorum in listening to the public overall. And I'm not saying every city councilor, but we will let you hear the clips of the ones we think are worth listening to, and then we'll post a link to the whole meeting on our website, weedout.com. But yeah, I don't know. What do you have to say before we share some stuff, Spence? What do we have up to share?
Let's just roll the tape.
All right.
So.
And at 1 minute, I will kind of wave you and let you know.
The only suggestion I have is, and I enjoy public comment as much as anybody does, is we have with committee reports close to 130-something items this evening. And I think we have to stick fast by our amount of time for public comment, which is, if I remember correctly, 15 to 20 minutes to get it done.
Yeah, it's 10 people, or I do believe it's 10 listed, unless we suspend the rules to open it up. We only have 7 listed here, and I don't see so far online, I'm not sure. What? And 3 emails, so that would be our 10.
I suggest we don't read the emails. We all were given copies of them, that we just let the public speak who are here.
I second that.
All right, so motion is for public comment, submit the emails that we all received receive them, and then open it up for those who are here to speak online as well as in the chamber. With that, going out of order with those, Councilor.
I just have a question, just for a point of clarification on that. So if you're just receiving the public comment and it's not read into the minutes, then is it still a public comment, or is it just an email that comes to us?
Great question. Seeing how we received it, and it's going to go into the minutes, it is received. Now, if you want it read,
it'd be read into the minutes.
You could read the 3 emails, but that could take up to 15 minutes easily.
No, I understand.
If it takes up to 15 minutes, now we have time
I'm
to let
just
the
trying to
public
understand
speak.
the clarification of what public comment is. That's all it is to me. What does public comment mean, and what is the definition of public
so
comment?
what I can do is just
That's all it is for me.
for clarity is we can start reading them. I will put the timer on for the minute and a half, and if I'm not done finishing reading them within the minute
I
and a
just
half,
want to be
then
fair. That's all it is.
No,
if not, then we don't have to read them. That's cool. But
That's
I
fine.
just want to know what it means and make sure that we're transparent to the community overall. That's all it is to me.
Councilor Bacon.
Can we just hear from the people in the chambers first, please?
Oh, we are, and then Councilor Jordan.
Yeah. Again, perhaps it was part of my hiatus away from the council, but previously when we had adopted this rule, there were no emails at all. So it was public comment.
Yeah.
You come up, you say whatever you have to say, and that was the way it was for 6 years. I left and somehow secreted into this became reading emails.
Because of
People-
COVID.
Fair enough. But I think we're at a point now that we're all here. If people would like to share emails, by all means, please email all of us, or include it in the record. But the thing that we have to sit here and start reading people's emails now at the meetings, that to me is a little much. And I think if you would like to be heard, by all means, you're welcome to get on the list. But if you would like to send us an email, by all means, I read all my correspondence as a general rule. So, but I don't think, I'm not a big fan of the whole, we're going to sit here reading people's emails. I don't think it actually does justice to the people that come down to the meeting, to be honest with you either.
All right, so Kevin Jourdain here. First of all, I thank you to the counselor for asking what is public comment. And, McGivern coming in, well, we're going to spend 15 minutes total talking and reading emails, right? First of all, no, because emails can be short. And public speaking takes longer because it takes time to come up. Whereas if you just have somebody read the email dryly, and we could even have a rule. There's ways you could even make a rule where you're like, hey man, we'll only read 200 words. Half a normal paragraph. If you got more information, that can be entered into the record. But have your thesis statement, and then you can have your supporting. That's fine. That's a rule we can make. So to act like this is, anyways. But then the whole thing about it's not fair to the people who actually show up down here. Listen, some people are in wheelchairs. Some people are old. We should be celebrating the fact that people can tune in after the fact. Some people can't watch it live. You post it on YouTube for the next day. So what if somebody can't make it that night, which our friend Owen couldn't make it that night. He wrote in his correspondence he had to work. But he's the one who sent us the feed because he waits for the feed to upload and then he watches every meeting. He is a meeting watcher. He is a dedicated public servant. So there's it's all this is nonsense. It's classism, ableism. Joanna?
I agree, and I feel like thank you to Israel Rivera for asking and clarifying about the emails. I would have felt the same way as Izzy. I just want to understand, so I get where he's coming from. That's definitely me. I like to have things clarified. So, also, they're worried about time, and that was the conversation they had.
That
So,
was
wow.
5 minutes.
Wow. Shut up and just let the public talk.
Right.
Maybe that. White men, can you please be quiet? I'm sorry, but that was there's a point where they're just literally ranting about the public speaking
And
too long
sucking
and
up
they're
time.
talking too long.
Yeah.
And that's just sad. It's just sad.
All right, let's go to the next clip.
Good evening, City Council. My name is John J.R. Rivera. I reside in 125 Cabot Street over in Ward 1, right across from the proposed Chestnut ShotSpotter implementation. I'm speaking today on behalf of two things, though. I'm in the first one, I'm in complete opposition of the ShotSpotter technology being implemented as a Ward 1 resident. I would also like to add that I would not like to see ARPA funds being used on this. I'm under the impression that it's unfortunately legal, but legality does not bring in just morality. I'm urging city councilors to unfortunately vote yes, but speak in opposition to this detrimental waste of technology. I'm also speaking on the basis of the right to recall. I urge city councilors to implement the right to recall. In these past months, we've had a lack of representation in one of the wards, to which I won't call out. This cannot continue simply. In light of the events, it is your civic duty as city councilors, but also as constituents in the Commonwealth, to implement a recall for city officials that cannot commit to the responsibilities of these chambers if something occurs. Whether, regardless of the event, lack of representation amongst the community or founded corruption and conflictual interests. That'll be all. Thank you for your time and have a good night.
So John made some great points. We'll have to have discuss what happened with their counselor some other time. Basically, he hasn't stepped down. He's been accused by the FBI of some impropriety with a young woman. I don't remember the details of the case off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's with an actual child, maybe a child or minor. So it's looking,
see.
but
I just
it's
knew it
alleged.
was, anyways,
It's alleged though, so that is why he's currently able to keep his seat, according to what I've read.
he's still in
paper.
process,
Yes.
but I think he's been indicted, right?
Yes, he spent 90 days, I think, already behind. Like he came back from prison and resumed his seat on the council until he goes to trial and is either found not guilty or guilty. So that's where they're at this point. So either way,
unfortunately, we have a ward. The ward in question where ShotSpotter's going, sadly, is the ward that has a counselor missing in action. So when it rains, it pours.
Yes,
apparently.
but this comment was amazing in terms of showing people just, if you have some time and you're able to get out. John really, he's acting within their civility politics, but he's saying what he needs to say. They probably don't like what he has to say, and too bad. Sorry, Holyoke councilors. He has relevant points, and he made them in all of these people, in my opinion, no matter if they use the word shit or whatever, based on how angry they may be in their community, their points are still super valid. And I was so impressed with everyone who spoke against ShotSpotter or just about things that really were upsetting them in their community. I was really thankful for these people as neighbors.
Yeah, same. Can't say any more to that.
Lori Solomon, 192 Walnut. From the August 2021 Executive Summary of the City of Chicago's Office of the Inspector General report titled, "The Chicago Police Department's Use of ShotSpotter Technology," quote, "The Office of the Inspector General concluded that its analysis of Chicago Police Department's responses to spot shotter alerts rarely produced documented evidence of gun-related crime, investigatory stop or recovery of a firearm. Additionally, the Inspector General identified evidence that the introduction of spot shotter technology in Chicago has changed the way that some CPD members perceived and interact with individuals present in areas where ShotSpotter alerts are frequent. I live close to the corner of Walnut and Appleton. It's a great neighborhood, and I have tremendous neighbors. I've never loved living anywhere more. Since buying my house, I have experienced a lot of gunshots and gun violence, including a bullet in my living room window. I called the police. They responded quickly and competently, and nothing about a ShotSpotter would have made that any better or any different. I would like to advocate that the department, sorry, I had to go off. The Public Safety Department be adequately funded to investigate the...
We are at our time.
Okay, and just incidentally, if some of the counselors would speak a little more quickly, we'd have more time for this.
Boom, mic drop. And, this person said that the police showed up, they did their job, and this is far more kind than I am to the police. I felt like if this is what the cops are trying to, not the cops, the council doesn't want to hear from their constituents, and this is what they're so nervous about and don't ever want, it's like, this is all reasonable.
Totally reasonable.
Listening, nothing, that woman is not a bootlicker, but she also isn't disrespectful to the police like I am.
So she was, like, her points were amazing, and like you said, we may disagree on the police, but she was giving them the credit.
She pointed out that this wouldn't stop it.
This wouldn't have stopped it, and they did, in her mind. They came and addressed it, and they did what they could do. So why waste community money? So a lot of us can agree on that. I'm sorry, why are we funneling money?
No, it's a federal grant. Well, that's our money.
But it's still money. And what happens once those grants stop?
Right.
And you'll hear in a little while when we play a clip from a friend in Pittsfield what does happen then.
Right. And, this person... Good for them for pointing out that if the counselor stopped sucking so much air, there'd be more time. She could have had another 30 seconds to finish her statement.
Well, it's just if they're concerned about time, pull it together. They're very long of tooth for people doing that.
Right. Well, that's why they want to conserve time, because they can't imagine anybody else can be concise. All right, next clip.
What was it? Meg Bassan, if I'm saying that right.
You are, can you hear me?
Yes.
I am a Pittsfield resident. I don't know if you continue to suspend the rules or you have to do it every time.
No, it's open.
Okay, great, thank you. My name is Meg Basong. I represent a group called Invest in Pittsfield, which is a citizen organization that looks at our city's budget and how to most effectively invest that money for a just, safe, and thriving Pittsfield. Pittsfield has had ShotSpotter since 2016, and I wanted to share our city's experience with you so that you understand what's coming down the pike, literally at you. This also began with promised private and grant funding in our city that ran out. We are now on the hook for $240,000 a year for our ShotSpotter subscription and have been for the past 5 years. We also had to seek a grant in our city for $233,000 because ShotSpotter causing monitor pop-ups that disrupted the dispatch system's ability to function. So we have spent over $1 million plus $233,000 in grants. We also have data collected by one of our former city councilors that shows that in Pittsfield, ShotSpotter has a 70% false positive rate, that 70% of the time it is not a gunshot. And the bulk of the time when
one minute.
confirmed valid, that those are also being called in by citizens. Only 7% of the time is it a confirmed positive gunshot that was not called in by citizens. 7% of the time over the 4.5 years that we have data for. Your city is about to waste a tremendous amount of money on this technology, and I urge you to stop it in whatever way you can.
And remember, we're going to hear later from Kevin Jourdain that they're going to follow the science. We have actual people committed to keeping this data in real, not in theoretical from the company, real, raw data and analyzing the data. And this is just up the street from us. This is 35 minutes away. And, in Massachusetts, that's a long way, but in Kansas, that's nothing. So, for the world, for the country, these people are basically our next door neighbors. Mm-hmm. And, similar demographics, similar size city, similar history, used to be thriving. Now it isn't. Industry's gone. Toxic waste, all the same issues that Holyoke's dealing with, literally, with white people trying to gentrify and just harass 50% of the population there because white supremacy exists even in the Rainbow Western Mass area. But this woman made a great point. Also, this is my pet peeve, the fact that we have rules that bar people from outside a community that can bring valuable information to us. That we have to have the council feeling in the mood. Right. And that's wrong. This person is giving us valuable information so we can all hear it, not just going to someone's spam inbox in the governor, the mayor or the council's office. And the reality is people are affected by the ShotSpotter that's only going in 1 square mile. And, if you live in South Hadley, right over the river, this is going to affect you. Whatever way you want to look at it. And even if it's part of your, what if they're for it? I'm not even saying that's great, but what if people can come with, that doesn't make me feel good. That's not my political point of view or my opinion on it, but we shouldn't be discouraging engagement. Oh, yeah. And if people have information, that's how we found out. I used to think body cameras were okay until some lawyers were like, nah, dude, they're terrible, actually. They use them as a weapon. Think about it. We don't get the investment. It's yes, in theory, there's accountability, but we never get the accountability. But then they can also use those body cams as a way to get bad confessions, scare people. And then it's somebody who's scared and in stress and in shock because of whatever just happened may have admitted to something they may not have done, or it could be used against them. And it's on camera now. It's not even the police's, they don't have a lawyer there to talk for them, and they're being, anyway. So that's my thing with body cams. So this person has data, they have information, and they're from out of town, and we have to have the kindness of our counselors to let them in to talk.
I know. Thank you to Meg and Invest in Pittsfield for being there and for showing up for your neighbors in Holyoke. Pittsfield's my hometown. We are very much like Holyoke. We are a struggling, working class community. So the fact that Pittsfield has wasted this much money on ShotSpotter, and Invest in Pittsfield is a group again, like she said, focused on for helping to make a thriving and just Pittsfield
And there's an active cover-up on a murder
in
by,
Pittsfield.
by police officers.
And
in
we can
Pittsfield.
post about that too, but
Miguel Estrada.
yes. But the Pittsfield police has the problems of their own, but thank you to people like Meg and people like Invest in Pittsfield, because you're focusing on making a better world, and oftentimes that means reallocating funds and going to these meetings and showing up and bringing the data that you have. So we've already heard from two speakers. One woman, Laura, mentioned the data out of Chicago, which we'll post on our website, and Meg just talked about data that they have in Pittsfield. We'll share that as well. And again, so we're going to point out that like Jordan, McGivern, all these other people.
And the data in Springfield, which is the data they love to point to, is very flawed.
Well, so again, so these counselors that are pointing to these science and saying that they're listening to science, like you're listening to the person selling you the items, science, but there's all this other information.
They're selling the company science.
So they're listening to ShotSpotter, but no one else for some reason. That's like what they're choosing to listen to. And again, it's a very uneducated position. It makes me nervous about people being in power, honestly, in the positions they think they're in power in, when they literally will not listen to anyone else. And they just have to, they're stuck. They're literally stuck on ShotSpotter. And just now, because there's opposition potentially.
Oh, and because some people died.
Well,
mind you, majority of the deaths this year were outside the proposed zone of ShotSpotter.
And we'll get off track too much if we keep going on to this too, because again, like it was stated in the meeting by people who speak during public comment, and that we may actually have it be heard in one of the next comments. They know where things are happening that are maybe needing to be looked at. And I'm not someone who's arguing the police should be going after anyone. But if there are locations where people are dealing drugs or conducting illegal business, and those are probably the cases where people are being injured with guns and shootings. It's not random shootings.
When you make a black market,
you get
a court system shows up, and in a black market, usually it's handguns.
Well, I'm just saying, these are not like random, and I've never... Any of the articles
disputes
I've
are dealt
seen,
with handguns, and that's just they don't have access to our court system. I mean, that's just as simple as it gets for me.
It's just the violence is because of a lack of resources in the community that drive people to do things that are potentially dangerous because they're dealing with illegal substances, and that is really the kind of the base level thing. Like, they've created the system, and ShotSpot, just sinking more money isn't how you fix it. So you'll hear people even talk about that, and like, why haven't the police stopped? You know, they must know where the drugs are sold. I mean, they've been in the same location for 4 or 5 years, maybe. Like, why haven't the police stopped it? It's a great question. So,
well, they say they need more help.
Yeah, they say a lot.
I know. They always say they need more help. But
then
then also when you question them, God forbid, it's like you keep saying, you're the ones who are saying you need more help. And we're just trying to see where you need the help.
Well, so they're saying the ShotSpotter is the help, but so the community is telling them, like, no, we do not want this help. Like, it doesn't work even.
It's also very Orwellian, like microphones. I know it's not designed supposedly to pick up conversations and all that stuff, and I get it, but it's just like, I thought as Americans we were supposed to be paranoid about this kind of stuff. That's the way I was raised, and maybe that's because I was raised a white guy, and you know, surveillance is only for certain people, and it's not for us, which is exactly what's happening in practice here. I mean, the ShotSpotter is going in, not in the white neighborhood. So I guess law and order for some. Anyways, let's keep the clips rolling, right?
Jose Adastra from 139 Hillside. I'm begging you guys. I'm a father of 3. And like, I've been trying to come here periodically. I haven't been here recently, but like, please don't waste more of our money so that we can be over policed more. ShotSpotter is more likely to get my kid's father murdered than their murderer caught. 80% of it is a misfire. So we're more likely to be harassed walking around our own neighborhoods than they are to catch a killer. The police solve less than 2% of crimes. So let's not get carried away with how effective they are and keep wasting our money. on it. I urge you to invest in recovery and peer support in a community care department and to get more shelter options available, more food assistance, and more cash assistance, because people have been selling drugs. I grew up on 245. I live on 139 now. I grew up in the Flats and then in Jarvis. They're always going to come back. You think you're going to catch a couple of really violent criminals? It doesn't matter, because everyone is poor and people are going to go right back into the same system. You need to create substance abuse recovery options, shelters. Stop glamorizing the police. They assaulted a minor and concussed him, and they offered his family a pathetic settlement, and that works for poor people to silence them. They have brutalized a 90-year-old girl. They operate their vehicles drunk. They can't even get along with each other. They can't even keep track of their firearms. The DOJ should be investigating Holyoke right after Springfield.
We are at our
sure
time.
it will be worse than Springfield. So please stop wasting our money and telling my kids that you're making us safer, because that's bullshit.
Yeah, no, we can't say that here.
So this is actually where the meeting starts to devolve, because somebody said bullshit.
Oh, they got all upset about that.
So as you can hear, the president says, she's shaking his finger.
No bad words.
No bad words. But it's not. See, they're already starting to move the goalpost, move the target, because they stopped listening to what the first minute and a half of great points that gentleman made, and now it's about bullshit. And he's right. It is bullshit. It's bullshit. All these things he said are verifiable facts. This
guy's like my public comment.
Talk.
He's my public comment hero.
This
like,
isn't
Jose,
street talk.
If you ever hear this, you're my public comment hero. Like, he just made the most beautiful points. He's a father. He's begging them.
He referenced kids.
Everything he said is so legitimate.
People, his kid's father, his stepkid's father. Just walking down the street at the end of the night, shot spotter goes off, some fireworks. Cops roll up. They see a dark guy in the alleyway. They shoot him. That's what's going to happen. That's what's happening in Chicago. That's what's happening in Springfield, and that's what's happening. They're showing up geared up when this thing misfires all the time. And
you're in that community living there, and it's just so he's right. He doesn't want his community over police. Honestly, this man just again. He had such eloquent points. So I speak next. Spencer and I are not playing our clips. We also spoke in public comment. I speak next, and I changed my comment after this. Man, is it the president of the council got so upset about shit? Yeah. I changed my comment at that point because I was like, they need to hear, like they're using basically civility politics to make that man's entire beautiful comment totally invalid because he said shit. Because even if you play it a little more, which we don't have to, please go watch some of these clips. At this point, we're about 27 minutes in. And Councilor Jourdain even ends up chiming in and asking, well, how can we keep him from, because he said that, can we keep him from public comment in the future? That's how.
Put him in the timeout chair.
Yeah, but that's how committed they are to silencing the public, who are making really pleas to their council, to help their community not waste money. So. And
you notice they'll never refute any of the accusations about this police department.
Well, yeah, I mean, to talk about it, it's hard. We'll share a ton of articles from the Gazette, the Shoestring, and after when we post for this episode on our website, theweedout.com. Yeah, we'll share Mass Live stuff. It's really overwhelming. And what do you say?
It's a town of 40,000 people. It's not a big place.
No. So, his points, though, again, if for public comment, amazing, but this is where it starts after his comments, I say something about civility politics and then also speak on ShotSpotter a tiny bit, and then it devolves. So we're going to try to get to the point where we're at. We're going to try to get to the point where we are sharing. We're going to find that clip where we're sharing where it basically devolves and the counselors' public comment has ended. And the counselors have decided to basically then talk for a really long time, which I thought they were worried about. And some of them should be allowed to speak because it was really important for them to be heard.
Some counselors were sharing racial threats
right.
they were getting.
Like certain ones, threats. They should be able to be heard. And some of them are making eloquent points. But for the ones that we will share these end of kind of this will be probably one of the last clips we share because we really just want to show how after that, it really just evolved. Even amongst themselves, they were accusing other counselors of not making valid points if they didn't use the correct terms or the correct words. And that's not right. That's basically policing people. Just because I say shit, how is it different than you saying hell and yelling at me when we're talking? So these counselors the white male counselors especially need to really reflect on their behavior. I don't know what else to say to them. Like, shame on you,
Well,
sirs.
I mean, you need
That's
shame.
the shame is all. I mean,
They need
really.
to have shame, which they don't. The reality is, I mean, I think we should be. I think we need to edit in the comments that Jordan said after this devolved, because he basically got into a screaming match with.
Well,
with
we can
Izzy.
play like a clip
Yeah.
of that after
But
this.
you know,
It's
just to
just
give everybody
it's
credit,
absurd.
He literally said in his rant, I would love. I can't listen to that guy.
I think we should play the clip, because I think we don't need to tell you what he said. It's literally he speaks for himself.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing, and it's inappropriate and wrong.
Yeah, so he basically goes at it because Izzy defends saying bullshit and Jose defends saying cursing, because some people that's their vernacular, and they're not, as long as they're not assaulting you, you know, or
And it wasn't directed at anyone.
It's not calling you he's not saying Kevin Jordan's a fucking asshole. I mean, it's not a lie, but like, he didn't do that. So that would be something, you know, we could have a conversation about how effective or if that should be allowed in these. And I mean, the answer is probably no.
And we have a whole episode on civility politics, and that's why this checks all the boxes. Like, these counselors are walking into things that I know they may not consciously be aware of it, but they're not allowing for people in their community to be heard because it's
Express the
uncomfortable for
feelings.
them.
And challenging the narrative.
It's not the status quo. They don't want to hear about it. It's not like that in their part of Holyoke.
Right. And the police are so nice. They've always been so nice to me. It's like,
Well,
it's
okay.
because you're in a position of power, guy.
But it's just, thank you again to all of the people that commented, because, again, such amazing comments. And I really hope that your city council and your mayor listen to you.
Yeah. And, you know, and when people in your life make arguments about people that don't live here shouldn't be allowed to make comment, or, you know, there should be rules on what words you can and can't use. You know, that's a red flag, man. We got to call each other to task on that, because it's ignoring the point, and it's not about your comfortability. Because literally anything, you know, us going after the police is not in decorum for a lot of these people.
And I'm not even going
Like
after the
actual
police. Like, no
Captain
one's doing that.
Moriarty-
They're literally
Captain
doing
Moriarty
things.
is literally saying you shouldn't be allowed to talk anymore because you said something that I don't like.
But that's the thing. That's not going after the police. Stating facts about the police is not going after them at all.
Right.
And, like, I know you didn't mean that like that way.
I know.
I'm not coming at you in any way. But, like, anyone thinking that we are actually, if the police have that delusion that I'm coming after them, LOL to you. Like, in your face, I am, like,
We're literally just shining a mirror.
like, I'm just showing you, like, there are articles, there's money trails, and then what's the things you keep off the records that you don't want people to access. That's another episode. But again, I'm a little off topic. I just think this meeting really just illustrates that we need to hold the people that we vote into power, even at a city council level, to task when it comes to the way that they let themselves act. Their decorum, some of those counselors' decorum, in my opinion, like, they could say a swear and I would be fine with that. But the way that they're speaking to their fellow council members or about people in the public is disgusting. It's horrible decorum if they really want to break it down.
And implying that it's only proper if you come here. And
Yeah.
you have to go through this process, this very specific process of being in this random building. Really, at the end of the day, it's a random building where we decide to meet, and somehow your words are less valuable because you work a fucking night job dishwashing.
Also, we just got out of a pandemic. Like, please stop acting like it's over too, and like we shouldn't have this option. So that, like, I have other things you could get sick from.
Of challenging pandemic
Well,
response
that's
too.
not science
and being,
either.
And it's really rich for him to
Wow.
claim that he follows the science
Wow.
when it comes to ShotSpotter. Kevin Jordan, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, dude, talk about mediocre, angry white men.
I shouldn't even be surprised, but it's just like, oh, Lord in heaven again. Please, like, sir, get yourself educated. Science.
All right, let's get to the next part.
Okay.
Do you think the vast majority of Holyoke citizens are in favor of ShotSpotter, or do you think the overwhelming number of citizens are against ShotSpotter? Newsflash, haven't done a scientific poll, wildly in favor. Okay, I have heard from many, many people in the last month. They cannot understand how this council voted it down. The mayor hears that, okay? He says he's heard from almost unanimous support of the citizens to do this. So he goes out and says, City Council, you can take these people $65,000. I'm going to do it anyway. So to Councilor McGivern's point, that's also a valid point. You can vote yes on this and raise your objection to ShotSpotter and say, I myself am not in favor of this. They're going to do it anyways. Why not take the free $65,000? Because that's also a bad idea to turn away money from the U.S. Attorney's Office. Number one, that's almost basically a to you, right? Because what's the probability we get another grant from the U.S. Attorney's Office when they gave you one and you turned it down? Think they're going to get more likely or less likely to give you another grant in the future? We need the U.S. Attorney's Office on the side of Holyoke. We didn't go to them. They came to us and identified us because of the high incidence of gunshots in this city, which are, by the way, staggering to me, the sheer number of incidents. And as a result, they identified us for this grant. So as a result, here we are. They've given us this grant. Take their money. This is money now that we're going to have to use ARPA funds if we don't take this $65,000 that we could go to, you fill in the blank. You get to have a say, all the 13 of us, on what happens with the ARPA money. And we're going to, in the process soon, on what those recommendations will be. But the pot is $65,000 bigger if we approve this. So for all those reasons, I feel compelled to speak on my behalf of my constituents who were crystal clear to me that they overwhelmingly want this, and I will be voting yes. Thank you.
Councilor Rivera for the first time.
That was intense. Yeah, I know. That's the grandiosity just oozes.
All right, let's focus on
And
Forrest. Let's go. Come on.
for me here, like, really? For me, it's just, we're going to be tough on crime, right? There's irony in that here, right? There's irony in the chambers for being tough on crime. That's the first piece, right? Second piece is, there's a lot of research that has been put out to contradict the ShotSpotter research, but we're only basing our information on ShotSpotter research off of the person that is selling the product. At the end of the day, a publicly traded product that was earmarked specifically by the U.S. government for only that specific use. We couldn't use the money to improve our technology system that we already have in place, the camera system, right? Only specifically for ShotSpotter. I wonder who's winning on that, right? Across the country board, stocks and all that stuff. I wonder who's winning on that. Then for me, it's like the irony in not questioning ShotSpotter's research, but if we do outside research for the people that we bring in to help us with our accounting, we question them up and down. And they actually have more accolades than the ShotSpotter people do, but we don't question them to that extent. It's crazy to me how we pick and choose who we want to question and who we don't question. So when we bring in people that has to do with finance and things, and people do not agree, ultimately, we question them up and down, we grill them. But for ShotSpotter, a company that is publicly traded, that is selling a product to us, we do not question them, and we take everything as gospel. Even though there is research, a variety of peer-reviewed articles, for those of you that have gone to college or are educated to that extent, we know what peer-reviewed articles are, right? We know what this research is. You know what it is a product of. It technically is students researching and getting the work done, not getting paid for it, right? Unless the school is getting paid for it, and that's a different issue, a different topic. The research that's coming out of ShotSpotter Someone is paying for that, and the narrative is coming to you straight from them. So ultimately, when it comes down to it, when you hear Pittsfield and you hear Chicago, you hear New Bedford, where the guy from ShotSpotter came out of, quote unquote, they totally discontinued the process or don't agree with the process. They say it's too expensive. Even Springfield, if you go back and listen to the officer and you listen to him clearly, he does not wholeheartedly believe in ShotSpotter, the company. He believes in the ideology and the concept, yes, but he does not believe in the company themselves. He said it himself. It took them a while to get to the point to where they're at. He also said that when they went out there doing shootings and the practicing, it was to recalibrate the system themselves, not because ShotSpotter was coming out to recalibrate it themselves. So this is a whole nother thing that we have to take on and understand. And we're doing this for 2 years to get research in 2 years. Well, just so you know, in real evaluation studies, 2 years is not enough time to do real research, especially when it takes you a year and a half to come up with the system and implement it. So we will be having it for like 5, 6, 7, or until our police believes it's no longer adequate enough and we need another technology system, because we had the camera system put in place back in 2003, and supposedly it was supposed to have all this technology already instilled within it. What's happened to it? I do not know. Ultimately. Now, the last big thing about my character, right? I am a dad. I go to school full time, no part time. I work full time. Like Kevin said, this is technically a voluntary job. We get paid less than minimum wage. I get more stress from this than I've ever gotten in my life, even more than when I was incarcerated. I'm not gonna lie to you, 110%. I got grades coming out of my chin, left and right. I got people that were my friends that are looking at me differently now because of ways that I voted. And you know what? I apologize, but that's where I stand. I cannot go back on where I stand. I got to stand on my own 2 feet. And what I believe in is what I believe in. The people voted me in knowing who I was and what my background was. It's not about ideology. It's about that the people are tired of the same shit, man.
Careful.
Hey, again, we're going back to civility, right? And who it oppresses and who it doesn't oppress. That does oppress me. Feel how you want to feel. It is what it is. We're speaking real talk right now.
But
No. Order. We're not going to
Mr.
swear.
President,
Bad language.
I mean, this isn't supposed to be the Dr. Phil show or some bar room.
You just talked for like 45 minutes, bro.
No, but I'm not swearing.
Lower your voice. You're not my dad. Lower your voice.
Everyone,
You're not my father.
I want to call the gentleman to order.
Do not talk to me like that.
He needs to stop.
Tone your
insulting
voice down,
people.
please.
He needs to
Do not
stop
talk to me like that.
insulting people, and he needs
Tell
to
him to stop
stop
talking to me
swearing.
like that.
I
Please.
said.
Maybe that's okay at the jail, but
what I'm
it's
saying?
not okay here.
Enough.
You know what I'm saying?
Enough. Hey.
See what I'm saying?
Order.
See what I'm saying?
Order.
Whoa,
Counselor
Kevin.
Jordan.
See what I'm saying?
Kevin.
Counselor Rivera has the floor.
Wow.
Let me be clear.
It's okay, guys. This has been the
Counselor.
story of my life in Holyoke.
Counselor.
And we work on it, and I come up and I rise, and I still win.
Counselor
I
Rivera.
still win. It's all
Counselor
right.
Rivera, you have the floor, please. Everyone
Anyway.
in the chamber, please.
As I was
Counselor
saying,
Rivera has the floor. He
As I was
speaking.
saying.
However, please.
I will refrain from using vulgar language because we need to speak properly in council chambers. Okay, I'm getting back to what I was saying, right? With regards to my character, 110%, I am a Holyoker from the beginning until the end. You can feel however you want about me, but when it comes down to it, for me, it's about the best for my people. I do not have to be here. I have 2 babies at home that my wife is raising them by herself, more or less, because I'm here more than I'm home. So at the end of the day, I'm here for my people. And I will continue to do that, just like a lot of you guys have done for 20, 25, 30 years, as long as the people allow me to do it. I apologize again for those that don't agree with me. You can set up a time to meet with me and talk to me. I am open ears. And whatever you want to call it. Everyone has my personal phone number. You don't got a Google number. You don't got none of that. You got personal stuff from me. It's real, 110%. I don't fake. I don't do none of that stuff. That's it, man. I'm done.
So we cut down this I guess episode of Days of Our Lives, Holyoke City Council edition, October 4th, 2022. And this is just the public comment. This is just the first hour and the first agenda item. I didn't even, I'm guessing it was spicy all the way through, or not guessing, it was spicy all the way through. But, if you're interested, please go to the source material. We'll link it. It's on the Holyoke Media YouTube page. But also, we purposely, the comments we put in, we didn't splice up other than, getting rid of the intermediary stuff, but we kept the public commenters stuff whole. That's all their words. And, we played what we thought were exceptional moments of just gross behavior or explaining exactly what we're talking about in every episode, whether it's class politics, white supremacy, dog whistles, how business is conducted in these town power structures, So, Joanna, do you have any closing thoughts for today's episode?
I just think everyone should definitely go to our webpage, theweedout.com, and just, if you have time, I know we shared like the best, what we thought were the best representations of some of the commenters and also public commenters, and then also of some of the counselors, both very, very misguided is the nicest way I can put it, and inappropriate. And then also some counselors have great things to say. So if you have time, please go. We'll share the entire feed on our website. But Spencer's right. Like, we didn't not cut these pieces up. You're hearing what you're hearing. Town meetings can last a long time. So again, we're only giving you the beginning and about ShotSpotter, but it's all there if you want to hear more. Please think about, like, if you had an issue that you'd want to speak about coming out for public comment. Don't let this scare you away. We feel we will continue to address with Holyoke or any town that acts this way. We will reach out and hopefully try to have them be more open to public comment and open to the community speaking, so that I know in my town, and I'm going to give the chair of the select board some props. He's happy that more people show up and speak. And Rich and I do not agree on politics in Montague, mostly. But Rich really is not trying to shut down public comment. They do have the same civility policing that a lot of towns do, but he's not trying. They would just let 25 people speak if they were there, because those people they think deserve to be heard. So I would urge Holyoke to rethink their stance, and not all of Holyoke, and also
just all of us. We all need to recognize that it's important for us to engage, and engagement there's no right or wrong way, to be honest with you. So if it means writing, if you feel more comfortable writing,
if you want to
feel
email,
more comfortable talking face to face, if you feel more comfortable dialing in,
right?
It should be where you feel your best, so you can bring your best. And if that means not saying anything as well and just talking amongst your loved ones, that's okay too. We don't need everybody in town talking, but we also shouldn't be discouraging it or putting qualifiers.
Yes, I don't want anyone to be discouraged based on this meeting. But I also think if you haven't ever listened to a meeting maybe in your town,
I recommend this one's a good one to start, because it's got a little drama, it's got a little juice. And when you see how the flow of this thing goes, it's kind of like, it's like watching clips on ESPN of a sports game as opposed to watching it in real time. Whereas what the players and the people in the field are going through, and like the pauses and the technical snafus and the goofy stuff, and also like the interpersonal stuff, and you can when you watch it, especially this one, since there is a lot, the emotions get high. It's actually not totally laborious and boring, but you can see these inner working dynamics play out. And you can see, question yourself and how you react to hearing somebody curse. Or sit with it. And like, if you're like reacting and you're not understanding why we're telling you, hey, that's just the way they talk, and it's a valid word, but they're pissed.
Yeah, like, honestly, question why you would think the counselors who are trying to suppress the public from speaking, like, why does that seem okay to you? If that seems all right to you, then you really, that's a problem.
And also, like, human nature, or I hate saying that, but, people aren't going to come and talk about how great of a job the police are doing. They're just not. So even if the police were literally doing what they promised us in a utopia where they stop crime, nobody's going to come and thank them.
Well,
I mean, maybe
they
maybe
might.
will,
They're doing
but,
a terrible
let's
job.
be real
so.
about usually it's about things that need to be addressed. So why are we acting all like perplexed and kerfuffled because people are saying stuff we don't like? It's like, well, nobody wants to be here bitching.
Right. But I would exactly. But I would urge others, like I said, to not be discouraged, to go to a town meeting, even if it's virtually, and listen in your own town if you're not from Holyoke. You heard people from Pittsfield, I'm from Montague, speak at this meeting because we frequent the entire Western Mass region. And if there is a town where I think there's something I would like to speak on, I will speak on it if I'm able to in their public comment. However, it's best for me. So like Spencer said, emails, in person, on Zoom. I'm thankful for all of those options. Again, I would urge everyone to just visit our website to find links to everything we've talked about today.
And follow us on social media. You know,
Definitely.
Twitter, Instagram, you know, TikTok, YouTube. We'll get that off the ground eventually, but you know, at least follow us there and share it with your friends.
Yeah, subscribe to our Substack. Please just, you know, we really appreciate the support and we would love some feedback, and we're just really thankful that you're listening.
And as always, we're going to sign off for today, but we'll be back next time and we'll be talking more about all this minutia, but it's really important. And if you like, you know, you like challenging yourself, we're a good podcast to listen to because we're trying to undo a lot of things, undo a lot of conceptions, a lot of thought processes, and really go from a thoughtful point of view, a harm reduction view. And sadly, that requires being a little tough. Like, I know it sounds counterintuitive, but you got to be tough with these counselors and these white supremacy tropes. You know, like we have to call it out when we see it. And unfortunately, in my city, the white people aren't sending their best. Like, we're just not. And it's not the non-white people's job to educate us, to hold us to a higher standard. That's on us. Like, we separated all of us, the white people I'm talking about, historically. We separate everybody. So it's not their responsibility to get us to learn how to act and be, you know, non-colonizers, non-extractors, non-succubuses. And that's unfortunately white supremacy culture, is just sucking the life out of everything around it and then blaming it for its situation.
Yeah.
Anyways, thank you for listening to The Weed Out. Please go to our website, theweedout.com. We cite all our sources. We have our Substack and all our social medias linked there. Share it with your friends. And again, ask questions, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.